Everything changes on February 20th, 2026, and I mean everything. Not just for you, not just for your country, for the entire planet, for the next 36 years. This is Edgar Cayce's prophecy about the Great Reset, the moment when a brand new cycle begins at the birth point of the zodiac, and everything we've known for the last 36 years gets wiped clean. I'm Bracha, and before we go any further, I want to be completely honest with you. This channel and this voice are created with AI as a tribute to honor the real Bracha and to bring these critical teachings to more people. The message matters more than the medium, and what I'm about to share with you is based on real astrology, real cycles, and Edgar Cayce's prophecies that are playing out right now in real time. I've been studying the 36-year Saturn-Neptune cycle for years, and what's happening on February 20th has never happened before in your lifetime and will never happen again. Saturn and Neptune meet every 36 years, but they've never met at 0 degrees Aries, the very first degree of the entire zodiac. This is a cosmic reset, a complete restart. And Edgar Cayce predicted that whoever shows up for this moment, whoever is awake and conscious and ready, they get to set the tone for the next 36 years, not just for themselves, for all of humanity. So in this video, I'm breaking down what the 36-year cycle actually means and why this one is different, what happened the last time Saturn met Neptune in 1989, and what that tells us about February 2026, why Edgar Cayce said this cycle begins with you becoming the leader of your own life, and how to claim your role as a conscious creator in this new 36-year era. This is your invitation. This is your initiation. This is the moment you've been preparing for your entire life. Let's begin. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe because the next 36 years are going to be unlike anything humanity has ever experienced, and I'll be guiding you through every major shift. Also, check the resources in the description if you want to understand how this cycle affects your personal chart. Now, let me tell you what a 36-year cycle actually is. Saturn and Neptune are the two slowest moving planets that govern our human experience. Saturn is time, structure, reality, limitation, the three-dimensional world. Neptune is timelessness, dissolution, dreams, imagination, the infinite. When these two planets come together every 36 years, they create a conjunction that resets the entire collective dream. The last time this happened was 1989. Do you remember what happened in 1989? The Berlin Wall fell. The Soviet Union began to collapse. The entire global political structure dissolved. Rigid boundaries that had existed for decades just vanished overnight. Countries that were enemies became allies. Systems that seemed permanent revealed themselves as temporary. That was Saturn meeting Neptune in Capricorn. The dissolution of old authority structures, the end of the Cold War, the beginning of a new global era. And here's what's wild. Every major shift in human consciousness, every time we collectively wake up to a new level of reality, it happens at a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Look back through history. 1989, 1953, 1917, 1882. Every 36 years, the collective dream changes. We wake up from one dream and enter another. But Edgar Cayce predicted that the 2026 conjunction would be different from all of them. Why? Because this one happens at 0 degrees Aries. 0 Aries is the birth point of the entire zodiac. It's called the Aries point, the world axis. Some astrologers treat it like a planet because it's that powerful. 0 Aries is where cycles begin. It's the cosmic reset button. It's the moment before creation. Pure potential, infinite possibility. So when Saturn and Neptune meet at 0 Aries on February 20th, 26, we're not just resetting the 36-year cycle. We're resetting the entire zodiac. We're starting from 0. And Cayce said, whoever is conscious at this moment, whoever shows up with clear intention, with a vision for what they want to create, they become the architects of the next 36 years. Not just for themselves, for the entire collective, because the first 24 hours after the conjunction sets the energetic template for the entire 36-year cycle. That's how powerful this is. Think about that for a moment. What you're thinking, feeling, choosing, and creating on February 20th will echo through the next 36 years of your life. That's not pressure, that's power, that's opportunity. That's the universe saying, here's your blank canvas. Now what are you going to paint? Now let me tell you what else is happening that makes this conjunction unprecedented. We're not just closing out a 36-year cycle. We're closing out multiple major cycles simultaneously. In fact, we haven't seen this much planetary movement, this many cycles ending and beginning at once since the year 576. In 576, global borders shifted, social structures were completely restructured, entire civilizations rose and fell, and we're about to experience that level of transformation again. Because on top of Saturn, Neptune meeting at 0 Aries, we also have Pluto entering Aquarius for a 20-year cycle, Uranus entering Gemini in July for an 8-year cycle, and Neptune staying in Aries until 2039. That's 14 years of Neptune in Aries. You understand what that means? That's a lot of air energy. Ideas, communication, speed, revolution, reinvention, innovation. Everything is going to move fast. Everything is going to change. The old slow, heavy structures of earth energy, they're dissolving. We're moving into air, into thought, into imagination made manifest. And Edgar Cayce said this is exactly what needs to happen, because the old systems, the old structures, the old ways of thinking, they can't hold the new frequencies coming in. They're too dense, they're too rigid. They have to dissolve so the new can be born. It's not destruction for destruction's sake, it's transformation. It's evolution. It's ascension into a higher dimensional reality. Now let me tell you what Cayce actually saw for this 36-year cycle. He didn't just predict events, he predicted a shift in consciousness. He said the cycle beginning in 2026 would be the cycle where humanity remembers who they really are, where we stop looking outside for leaders, for saviors, for authority figures to tell us what to do, and we step into our own sovereignty, our own leadership, our own creative power. He called it the cycle of the self-made leader, and he was very specific about what that means. It doesn't mean you become famous. It doesn't mean you have followers or a platform or recognition. It means you become the leader in your own life. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking for approval. You stop looking to others to validate your choices. You step up. You take responsibility. You make decisions from your own inner knowing. And when enough people do that, when enough people become self-made leaders, the entire collective consciousness shifts, because consciousness is contagious. When one person steps into their power, it gives permission for others to do the same. And then it spreads like wildfire. That's what this 36-year cycle is about. It's not about one person leading the masses. It's about each person leading themselves. And Edgar Cayce said this shift wouldn't be easy because we've been conditioned for thousands of years to follow, to obey, to defer to external authority. We've been taught that someone else knows better than we do, that we need experts, gurus, governments, institutions to tell us what's true and what's not. But Aries doesn't follow. Aries leads. Aries says, I am. I choose. I create. I know. And with Saturn and Neptune meeting at 0 Aries, the universe is saying it's time. It's time to stop following. It's time to lead. It's time to trust yourself more than you trust anyone else. Now, let me break down what's been happening leading up to this conjunction, because you need to understand the setup. This didn't just start on February 20th. The activation began weeks ago. Neptune entered Aries on January 26th, 2026. That was the spiritual activation. Neptune dissolves boundaries. Neptune is dreams, imagination, oneness, the mystical, the infinite. In Aries, Neptune is asking, who am I spiritually? What is my mission? What am I here to create? What is my spiritual identity? Not what I was taught, not what my parents believed, not what society says, but what I know in my soul to be true. Then Saturn enters Aries on February 14th. That's the reality check. Saturn says, okay, you have the dream, now build it, make it real, give it structure, take action, stop talking about it and do it. And then on February 20th, they come together at 0 Aries. Dream meets reality, imagination meets structure, vision meets manifestation, consciousness meets matter. And Edgar Cayce said this is the moment when the new 36-year cycle locks in. Whatever intention you're holding on February 20th, whatever vision you have for your life, for your purpose, for what you want to create, that's what the next 36 years will be about for you. Not vaguely, specifically. This conjunction sets the template. It's like planting a seed. And then every time a planet moves through Aries over the next 36 years, it waters that seed. It activates that template. When Mercury moves through Aries in March, it activates your template mentally. When Mars moves through Aries, it activates your template with action, with drive, with courage. When Venus moves through Aries, it activates your template in relationships, in values, in what you love, over and over and over for 36 years. So what you plant on February 20th, you're going to be harvesting for the next 3.5 decades. That's how important this is. Let me give you a personal example of how the 36-year cycle works. The last Saturn-Neptune conjunction was in 1989. I want you to think back to 1989. What was happening in your life? How old were you? What were you dreaming about? What were you building? What choices did you make that year? Whatever it was, if you trace it forward, you'll see that the themes from 1989 played out over the next 36 years. The structures you built, the dreams you followed, the identity you created, the path you walked, all of it traces back to 1989. Maybe you started a career in 1989 that defined your professional life for decades. Maybe you met someone in 1989 who changed everything. Maybe you made a decision in 1989 that set your entire trajectory. That's the power of the conjunction. It's a hinge point. And now in 2026, we get to reset. We get to start a brand new cycle. And here's what Edgar Cayce said. He said, if you didn't like what you created in the last 36 years, if you've been living someone else's dream, if you've been following instead of leading, if you've been playing small or hiding or waiting for life to happen to you, this is your second chance. This is your cosmic do-over. Because on February 20th, the slate gets wiped clean. You get to start fresh at 0 Aries. And whatever you choose to create now, that's what the next 36 years will be about. But here's the thing. You have to choose consciously. You have to show up with intention. Because if you're unconscious on February 20th, if you're just going through the motions, if you're still living in fear or doubt or waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, then the next 36 years will be more of the same. The cycle doesn't change just because the planets are moving. The cycle changes when you step up, when you become the leader of your own life. When you say enough, I'm done waiting, I'm creating my reality now. Now let me tell you what's happening 3 days before the conjunction that makes this even more powerful. On February 17th, we have an annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees Aquarius. This eclipse is the activation point for the conjunction. Eclipses are portals. They open doors between dimensions, between timelines, between realities. And this eclipse is happening in Aquarius, the sign of revolution, awakening, community, the collective, the future, technology, innovation. The eclipse is square to Uranus, the planet of sudden change, shocking truth, breakthrough, liberation, freedom. So the eclipse is shaking everything loose. It's breaking down the old structures. It's revealing what's been hidden. It's showing us the truth we've been avoiding. It's waking us up whether we're ready or not. And then 3 days later, Saturn meets Neptune at 0 Aries, and we get to build something new from the rubble. Edgar Cayce called this the earthquake before the foundation. He said the eclipse would feel chaotic, destabilizing, like the ground is shaking beneath your feet, like everything you thought was solid is suddenly liquid. But that shaking is necessary. You can't build a new foundation on top of an old one. The old has to crack, the old has to crumble, the old has to fall away. And then you rebuild from zero, from the Aries point, from pure potential, from nothing but consciousness and imagination and will. That's what creation looks like. It's messy, it's uncomfortable. It requires letting go of what was so you can make space for what will be. Now, here's what I need you to understand about leadership in this new cycle. Cayce was very clear about this. The leadership of the next 36 years won't come from governments or corporations or traditional power structures. It will come from individuals, from people who step up and say, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm creating my life the way I want to create it. And when enough people do that, the entire system shifts, because systems are made of people. And when people change, systems collapse. When people wake up, systems can't control them anymore. When people step into their power, the old power structures become irrelevant. That's what's happening. That's what this cycle is about. But here's where most people get stuck. They think leadership means having all the answers. They think leadership means being perfect or fearless or always knowing what to do. And Edgar Cayce said, no, that's not leadership, that's ego. Real leadership is saying, I don't know, but I'm willing to figure it out. Real leadership is saying, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway. Real leadership is saying, I don't have a map, but I'm going to trust my inner knowing and take the next step. That's what Aries energy is. Aries doesn't wait for the perfect plan. Aries doesn't need certainty. Aries just moves. Aries says, I am, therefore I create. And with Saturn and Neptune meeting at 0 Aries, the universe is saying it's your turn. It's your turn to lead, not later, not when you're ready, not when you feel prepared, now, right now, because the 36-year cycle is beginning, whether you're ready or not, and you get to choose. Do you step up and claim your role as a conscious creator? Or do you stay small and let the cycle pass you by? Cayce said the ones who step up now, the ones who claim their leadership, their sovereignty, their creative power, they become the template holders. They set the tone, they anchor the new frequency, and then everyone else follows. Not because they're famous, not because they have a platform, but because they embody the new energy. They live it, they breathe it, they are it. And that's magnetic, that's powerful, that's leadership. So what do you do between now and February 20th? First, get clear on what you want to create, not what you think you should want, not what society tells you to want, not what your parents wanted for you. What do you actually want? What lights you up? What makes your soul sing? What would you create if you knew you couldn't fail? Write it down, get specific, because on February 20th, the universe is going to ask, what's your vision? And you need to have an answer. Second, let go of everything that's not aligned with that vision. The relationships that drain you, the jobs that suffocate you, the beliefs that limit you, the identities that no longer fit. Let them go. The eclipse on February 17th is going to shake everything loose anyway, so you might as well start now. Make space for the new. Third, claim your leadership. Stop waiting for permission. Stop asking for approval. Start making decisions from your own inner knowing. Start trusting yourself. Start acting like the leader of your own life, because that's what you are. Fourth, find your people. This new cycle is about community. It's about co-creation. You can't do this alone. Look around you. Who's awake? Who's conscious? Who's ready to step up? Those are your people. Build with them, create with them, lead with them. And fifth, remember this. The next 36 years begin on February 20th, 2026, but they don't end there. This is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a long cycle. You don't have to have it all figured out on day one. You just have to show up. You just have to set the intention. You just have to say yes. Yes to leadership. Yes to sovereignty. Yes to creating the life you actually want. And then the cycle unfolds. One step at a time, one activation at a time, over 36 years. Edgar Cayce said this cycle would be the most important of our lifetime, not because of what happens to us, but because of what we choose to create. Because for the first time in human history, we have the tools, the awareness, the collective consciousness to consciously create our reality. We're not victims anymore. We're not followers anymore. We're creators, we're leaders, we're sovereign beings. And February 20th is when we prove it. From my heart to yours, this is your moment. This is your initiation. This is the beginning of your 36-year cycle. Show up for it, claim it, lead it, and watch what happens when you do. Drop a comment below and tell me, what are you creating in this new cycle? What's your vision? What are you ready to lead? I want to hear it. And if this lit a fire in your soul, subscribe, because we're tracking this entire 36-year cycle together. This is just the beginning. Let's go.